But I will tell you, I have grown to value the power of one's mindset, the power of mission, the power of mood, and the power of motivation, all of which we are in control of.
Hello and welcome to At the Podium with me, Patrick Huey. At the Podium is a multimedia platform that brings together people from a diverse background of lives, careers, and experiences who all share one thing in common. They have stepped fully into the transformative power of finding and raising their voices to make an impact on the world we live in today. At the Podium holds a space for everyone to share their stories, to be heard, and to bring us inspiration. Today, I am thrilled to share the podium with Marsha-Ann Donaldson-Brown. Marsha-Ann Donaldson-Brown is a woman driven by fierce passion and purpose. She is a tourism executive, speaker, mentor, advocate, and host of her live TV show, Real Talk with Marsha-Ann. She is on a mission to engage, encourage, and empower women to shift their mindset, overcome their limits, own their greatness, and transform their lives to one of purpose, passion, and prosperity. She is the proud mother of 2 children and a true champion of her beloved Jamaica, as well as a Bachelor of Science degree in hospitality management from Florida International University. Marsha-Ann holds a Master of Business Administration from Nova Southeastern University. Okay, Marsha-Ann, welcome to At the Podium.
Oh my goodness, I hope everyone can see my electric smile and hear the beat of my heart. Thank you so much for the invitation. It's such an honor and a joy to be here with you, Patrick, and to all our listeners.
It has been 2 years in the making. I've wanted to talk to you on this platform because you and I had the pleasure of getting to know each other over 4 years when I lived in the Caribbean and worked at Sandals where you work, and we shared amazing moments. We shared life, love, conversation, friendship. And so I knew when the time was right, you'd be sitting here at the podium with me.
And I've been waiting.
You're here and you're here. I want to get right into it with you because there's so much I want to cover with you, and I want people to hear your wisdom and your words. So we had a call last week just to touch base before we did this. And after we hung up, I went to the Bible and I went to Ecclesiastes 3:1-8, which says, "There is a time for everything and a season for every activity under the heavens. A time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to uproot, a time to kill and a time to heal, a time to tear down and a time to build up, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to mourn and a time to dance, a time to scatter stones and a time to gather them, a time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing, a time to search and a time to give up, a time to keep and a time to throw away, a time to tear and a time to mend, a time to be silent and a time to speak, a time to love and a time to hate, a time for war and a time for peace." That's what our conversation led me to after we spoke, because we talked about life's timing and that we step into what we're supposed to step into when we're supposed to step into it. And I particularly went to this because of our conversation about us both turning 50 around the same time and how that impacted our lives and our visions of who we are as people. And this is what you said. I quoted you. I don't know if you know I was quoting you, but I quoted you, and you said this: "Purpose evolves, life evolves. We get stuck in these ideas of who we are and who we're supposed to be. It's about choosing to live life fully. It's not about being broken. It's about living versus existing. Are you functioning or are you flourishing? Life on your terms. Be you. Strip your limitations, shift your mindset. Everything begins and ends with mindset.
Mhm. Wow.
That's what you said.
Wow. Well, I think you need to first know that that ecclesiastic is a very close fundamental tenet that I'm now guided by. So it's very uncanny. I think it's a divine alignment that you would be led to that.
Yeah.
But my goodness, did I say all of that, Patrick? Because that is what I believe, right?
Yeah.
That purpose truly does evolve. And I think that some of us, if we're not careful, will live life in a time capsule, trapped in the dogma of what society says or what has been said to us.
Mm.
And I am on a mission now, as you are too, to embrace that this season, we're talking about seasons of life,
Yeah.
that within this season that we occupy, that we're living it fully. And that's going to look different to you as it will to me, as it will to someone else. But I truly believe that you will know that there is fulfillment within when you stop having this level of angst about living up to expectations of others versus the expectations of ourselves.
Mm.
That's where I think liberation lies. And I believe that that's where purpose truly begins to evolve.
And you talk about liberation just now, and you've called liberation an act of radicalism,
Mhm.
an act of freeing yourself.
Mhm. I mean, like, radical can literally mean having that very hard, firm conversation to say, if I need to get to the next dimension of my life, if I need to get to the next, to the zenith, if I need to actually do the next great move for me, one must self-audit and identify, is there anything that's holding me back? Am I choosing to be a self-prisoner on my own account? And what is it that I must ask myself? What am I responsible for to set myself free from? So radical can mean as extreme as, although you have been associated with a job for 20 years, if it is not serving you in this next season of fulfillment and freedom and liberation, because you know that you're made for something else, perhaps as tough as it is, you could be tied to it because of tenure, but not because of joy.
Ooh.
You could be in a marriage that because you are waiting to celebrate that 25th anniversary milestone, you're in it for the robotic nature of it, but there's no love, there's no joy, no peace. That's what radical means. When I turned 50, I got radical. I released the things that I felt was holding me back because I thought that 50, I kept on hearing Patrick, and someone else might be going through this journey too. You are hearing the word new beginnings.
Yes.
It's time for a new beginning. It's time for a new day, a new dawn, a new chapter, a new decade. But when it comes on to new, a lot of times it means shedding some of the old. So what is it that you need to let go of to be liberated and be renewed? And in my case, radical meant letting go of the limits that I put on myself, limits of doubt, limits of fear, fear of failure, fear of success. A twisted irony, because many do. As high achievers, I can speak for high achieving women, a lot of us go through this label of wanting to constantly be achieving. So publicly, you might seemingly be well, but internally, you are knowing that there is more within you and it's time for you to stop. So radical meant for me having a firm, tough conversation with self. And that also included being as radical to say that was the year I was choosing to end my marriage. Because I knew that the next chapters of my life meant liberating myself in a no judgment zone of saying it was no longer where I needed to be and it was healthy for all concerned. That's a big decision. And I'm a big believer in unions.
Yes,
and
you
I'm a big believer in love, and it hasn't changed that at all. But I just knew that if it is that I'm going to thrive, thriving means identifying where are the areas that are now decaying or dead that you need to remove so that you can evolve in this next season.
Marsha-Ann, I know we had talked about your marriage ending, which is a death and needs to be mourned, because for the time it worked, it was a part of your life. It was a significant part of your life that I knew you as Mrs. Donaldson-Brown.
Right.
What was that process like internally for you to even whisper that to yourself, that maybe that marriage needed to end for you to step into your new beginning?
What a great question. Patrick, I am going to first boldly say that when marriages end, they don't end on the day that they end. There is a process over time. That dripping faucet, the drips just get a little bit larger and larger. And so I could identify, especially a year prior to that I knew that as individuals, we would be better apart than together. And those were conversations I was having with myself. But I truly tell you, Patrick, there was an epiphany. I could see it like a stadium bulb, as I did then and I do now. But there was an epiphany that came to me in turning 50. And I had to say to self, do you stay in what's familiar? Do you stay in what is expected of you? Do you try to ensure that things appear cohesive, but internally, your peace, your joy, and your purpose is actually being altered? And so I consider it self-love when you are able to make radical decisions in the interest of yourself. Self-love, self-awareness, self-governance, self-passion, compassion, because who else is going to do it for you? Many of us stay on a treadmill, at one throttle, just moving. But that's existing. And I knew it was time for this chapter for me to thrive. And I am literally living my only life the best way now. I'm not living my best life because I only have one.
Yeah.
I'm living my only life the best way now because I am finding me again.
Marsha-Ann, when you are making decisions like that and you have built a life, how do you talk to the children about those types of decisions that you're making? Because they're impacted as well. And your children are old enough to where they have to buy into it as well. It can't just be, this is happening, get over it. I guess it could be that way, but I know you don't operate that way.
No, I
so
don't.
How did you speak about this transition in your life with your children?
What a great question. So Patrick, I would say that was the most difficult aspect of my decision making. Truth be told, I could have made the decision a year or two prior, but I didn't for the same reason. Because I believe in a unit. I do not know anything else but as a family. My parents are the epitome of the example of together forever, literally till death do us part, with Dad's recent passing. So they took that seriously, and that's all I've known. I'm also very faith-based. So as a part of that, I really believed in sticking it through. But I don't think we give children enough credit. I believe that we're designed to keep them in this bubble of the unknown and keep them in a state of protection where we want them to feel like everything is in a glass house. And as a result, you assume that there is a perfect life, but are we really conditioning our children for the realities of life? And
Yeah.
so the conversations just had to be had where this is a chapter where it is actually healthier for all of us, not just for me. This was not selfish. This was healthier for all of us, but the self-love component meant I had to choose, how am I going to be a better person? How can I be a better parent, a better individual? And that included being radical to let go.
Mm.
Yeah. I mean, it was, I look back at it now and I think to myself, that was so defining for me.
Yeah.
And I'm so proud of me.
Yeah. I spoke to a woman on the show. Her name is Oceana Sawyer, and she is an end-of-life doula. So she's with people as they transition out of life into death. And she talked about that we don't have, particularly with children, we don't have death stories for them because we want to protect them. We want to hold it back for them. So death becomes a thing that is to be feared, as opposed to bringing the child into the death room and showing them the process and talking to the person who's dying and explaining what's happening. And that when you don't explain, when you don't trust the resilience of the child, you embed fear in them. Mm-hmm. Whether it's a divorce or a job separation or a friendship ending, our lives are filled with endings and transitions.
Correct.
And unless we learn how to manage that process and honor those transitions, it's a lot of heartache and fear.
Yes. And, I am so glad that you even use the analogy of the death and that process of introduction. And I would safely say to you that emotional intelligence and emotional conditioning includes being able to embrace that life has joy, it has sorrow, that seasons come, seasons go, that change will happen. You're going to celebrate today. And tomorrow you could be in a state of mourning, but it doesn't last forever. Mm. And having experienced my dad's passing, and we were able to get the children to be there as he was actually transitioning, I would say to you that the level of peace that comes with that and our ability to have been able over a few days to say, things aren't thriving. Those are real conversations. Mm. So I use that to say to someone, it is time to identify areas where you are no longer thriving, where even if you were to apply an oxygen tank for attempting to keep things alive, there comes a point where you must know, is it a place? Is it people? Is it a job? Is it a situation where you must identify this is no longer living? And there comes a point where it is okay to open your hands and release, knowing that this is a season. I think we think that the only thing that expires is food. Yeah. They're not the only things that have a sell-by date. They're not the only things that expire. Yeah. I believe that we must embrace, there's a level of maturity that we must come to and embrace the releasing without bitterness. After time, that is a process. Yeah. Forgiveness, that's a process. It's not easy, but I truly believe that we're in command of our choices. And wherever help needs to be sought, get the help that's needed. And focus. I am a big believer, Patrick, that whatever it is that brings me peace and joy and love and contentment and prosperity and happiness, that's what I'm going for. And if it doesn't, it is my job to fix it, not somebody else's own. There's nobody here rescuing us, guys. Yeah.
There is no Superman.
No, there isn't. You got to do you for you.
Marsha-Ann, you said something earlier that made me hearken back to our time together at Sandals. And you said it twice in our conversation today. You said that you are a believer in unions. And a part of your job, the title may be director of romance, but what you're really doing is facilitating unions for people, whether that's a new union or a recommitment ceremony through the wedding business of sandals, which is the business of sandals and beaches. And you have been at the center of that for many years. And I wonder what you have learned about unions and what makes a successful union in business, in marriage, in friendship, from all that you have done within your career in sandals.
I tell you, I consider it such an honor to play this pivotal role. And I take it very seriously because of my belief in unions. I would say to you, Patrick, that I'm at that stage where I'm able to see partners together and really have a good sense of judgment of those who are really going to ride the wave together. What are some of the fundamental things that I have been able to identify over the years about unions? I truly believe the ones that thrive best, their core is based on friendship. Friendship one with another. I believe their core is based on respect, honor, and strongly interconnected values. I will tell you categorically that regardless of the type of relationship, if values are not aligned, over time, it's oil and water. They just can't coexist because there is such an interconnectivity, a synergy, a togetherness for what value means to you and that partner. And so the misalignment becomes parallel after a while. I truly believe that sometimes romance novels, we love them. We love the movies, we love them. We love the fairy tale. We love the fantasy. But we don't get to the core of the reality. Because at the end of the blissful honeymoon, one must be able to turn around to their best friend and ride the wave together. Know that for you, if family is a value and it's not a value for the other person, do you understand the friction that comes into place? If integrity is a value for one and the other is dishonesty and, just a really dark side, it just does not coexist. They do not twain. And so value becomes so fundamental. But also, Patrick, truth be told, that the ones that thrive because you're best friends are the ones that allow the spirit of independence. So this is your purpose. This is where you're thriving. I'm going to support that. You can't be so interlocked that there's no breathing space, that you have I look at my parents as a classic example where independently they both had their lives and lived it so well. And together they had their union. But at no point did it not afford each other thriving in their lane. You got to be able to thrive in your lane so that when you come together, you thrive for common goals and you thrive for independent goals and you're your best friend's cheerleader. That's a union that depends upon one another and stick together.
Last year or the year before, time is strange with COVID. The dates don't register always for me. You publicly for the first time spoke about your battle with lupus. And I wonder what that gave you to speak publicly about a very personal and private issue, and how if that changed your relationship to lupus, and if that changed how you live with it on the day-to-day basis.
Patrick, I tell you, what an incredible decision that I made. And I had no idea how much I had entrapped myself in my private battle. And I say this because pain will manifest itself in so many ways. The pain and agony that could go along with a medical condition is real. But that pain also has other roots. And so for me, my decision during COVID, in the midst of when the world stopped and life stopped for all of us, it was my in-depth self-audit time to set myself free from the bondage I created with being afraid of being labeled as being unwell, weak, and unfit because of lupus. I did not want a pity party, Patrick. And so for 12 years, I chose to keep it to my heart and keep it within and acted. Here is what I must talk about. Oh, the facade of when I was unwell caused me more pain. I wanted to be the superwoman with the cape on. I wanted to seemingly have it together. I did not want to be treated less than anyone else. So I am the one that put myself in this encaged situation where I didn't want it known for that reason. Patrick, the decision to have done it, I did it publicly, like literally on social media, but it had to come out.
Yeah.
And sometimes until you literally get out what you have entrapped, and I'm not saying everybody has to do what they need to do in that fashion, but whatever it is that's considered an entrapment, it's actually causing more of a burden. And I want to talk about the sense of freedom. I did it with my knees knocking, I was shaking. If you rewatch it, my voice quivered. And I took a long time building up before I spat it out. And when it came out, about 20 pounds physically dropped off of me. I felt it. And I felt like an oppressive cloud lifted from above my head. It was an indescribable feeling. But I will share this with you. Since doing that, a lot of my medical aches, pains, lupus flare-ups, a lot of the things that had plagued me, Patrick, I am at my fittest, finest that I have ever been. And I truly believe that sometimes things that we trap in become an internal poison that is slow poison for us. Because we're keeping and bearing things and bearing weights that so heavily beset us that are meant to be released. And the joy of sharing has allowed me to help others. It has also given me a different level of personal responsibility to not just live my life on purpose, but also live it with such great intention to treat my body as a temple. And so I have begun working out. I take what I eat very seriously with more, a lot more health-based options. I live life fully. I enjoy myself. But a big part of that is saying, yes, I am in fact a lupus warrior who is now living her only life the best way she knows now.
That freedom, we hear it all the time, that we are as well or not well as our secrets.
Yes.
And there's very little that I feel like I wouldn't talk about if it could save my life or save someone else's life. And I think it is a habit of practice to condition ourselves to release the shame, because I think we live with a lot of shame.
Yeah.
Versus owning what is real today. And I'm still on that journey, in that process, and I think many people listening and watching this are on that process. And I think your fearlessness even with your knees shaking. The knees still shake. That's not
Mhm.
something to stop.
And the truth is, I believe that until the day we die, every day is a reminder. What is it that I need to release today?
Yeah.
What is it that I need to invite in today? Because there are things, there are dreams and visions that we have. In my case, Patrick, the fear of judgment and the fear of failure, being labeled as weak. And I asked myself, why did that matter? But at that time, validation mattered. And validation is for parking, not for people. So why did I think I needed the rubber stamp of approval to say, yeah, you're fit enough personally and professionally, you can get it done? Why was I overdoing it? Why was I overcompensating? Because I didn't want what seemed like an ailment to be known, and it's not an ailment that I called upon myself.
Right.
But I will tell you, I have grown to value the power of one's mindset, the power of mission, the power of mood, and the power of motivation, all of which we are in control of.
Mm.
And I have chosen me for me.
You said that when you were a child, you were bullied, which is a common theme I'm hearing on this platform, that people who are successful, people who move through life with a certain level of confidence, a certain level of focus, and the ability to make the kind of transitions you're talking about, had it rough growing up. Not everybody, but you talk about being bullied growing up, which I understand and resonates with me because I was bullied growing up, and yet still here you sit today. Could you be here today without that experience?
Now that I am where I'm at, I can confidently say that it's a big part of the pillars of my strength. But before now, it broke me, Patrick. And in fact, I'm going to share with you, I just had an epiphany while talking to you, that I now understand that my need for validation was because I was invalidated in those years in school, being told, why do you speak so well? Why do you always feel like speaking up? Why do you always have this posture of confidence? And now I understand that having not been accepted by them in school, for those who constantly like jeered me on and teased me, and I lost my voice over time, Patrick. I dimmed my light for others to shine because I wanted to be accepted. I get it now, today, as we speak, that the need for validation was because I was invalidated then. But let me tell you, I've been set free. And this woman is not going to stop talking because there are too many others like me who we've got to retrace. When did we begin to dim our light? When did we begin to trap ourselves with the fear of failure, the fear of the unknown, doubt, all of these entrapments? When did we enter into places or with people that because we wanted to hold ourselves back because of things that may have happened along life's journey, we have not been fulfilling what we're called to fulfill, Patrick? No longer is my statement. Again, I rise. And each day I'm rising with the desire to help other women, especially, to really empower them and engage and encourage them to understand that it's not about what has happened. And some stories are rough. So I'm not saying people shake it off on your own. You're not able to shake it off with a duck's tail. But I am saying, get the help that you need to get, because at the end of the day, know this:
Mm.
All you have is this one life, and you are deserving of living it fully, with intention, with peace, love, and joy unspeakable. And that nothing or no one is worth it for you to be dragging through life broken. We've got to do the work to fix selves first.
Have you been able to forgive the people who bullied you?
You know, I have, but it has been a long process. And truth is, I didn't know how much it affected me, Patrick, until the last 2 years, especially. I'm telling you, the silence of COVID and that pandemic in the height of it, we will really bury hurts because we think, oh my goodness, that's when you were a teenager. Did that really affect you? Yeah. Listen, words have so much power, and words spoken, you know, there's a saying when you are growing up, which is so wrong. You may know it. Sticks and stones may break my bones, but words can't harm me. The farthest from the truth. In fact, some will heal greater from a physical wound than an emotional one, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, those words, I did not know how much until I had to do that strong reflection in my time of pause. And I'm like, you lost your voice. You never spoke up when you should. So this girl is the advocate that has witnessed her mom and dad being advocates. I am now speaking up and speaking out, and nobody is gonna stop me.
And
Oh,
there would be, you have this amazing platform called Real Talk with Marsha-Ann, which would not have existed if you hadn't spoke up for yourself.
right. And that was the genesis of all of it. It was on the second episode of Real Talk with Marsha-Ann that I revealed my lupus journey. My first episode was with my daughter intentionally. She's actually one of my mentors. Yes, I said that. And I opened with her because I needed to navigate this space of doing a live. And here we are. Later, it has continued.
It's been 2 years. I wonder what you have learned from all the conversations, because you've had some wonderful people on.
I have. I've been blessed with some wonderful people. And here's what I have learned, Patrick. We all have a story.
Mm.
And everybody's going through something. We've had valley moments. We've gone through dark tunnels. And there are those of us who also will say, in the same breath, we've been on the mountaintop and we've seen the light at the end of the tunnel. We're all going through something. 1, 2. I have grown to embrace over the last 2 years that we're truly stronger together. 3, that vulnerability is a strength, not a weakness. 4, it's actually greater to be courageous than confident. Take courage and confidence will back it. And 5, being radical. Many of the folks that I have spoken to have become radical in choosing to own their purpose and live their life on purpose. And so those are the top 5 things. And doing things afraid, all undergirded with doing things afraid. Having the courage to believe in oneself and that inner voice, never silencing your gut. If it doesn't feel right, it's not right. If it feels right, it's right. Lean into it. Take the risk. Believe in yourself. And if it doesn't work out, take the lessons and move on. So important.
Marsha-Ann, you have said, I wrote it down, you've said that we give permission to people to have appreciation of where they are now and where they have been. Where are you now and where have you been?
Where am I now? I am at a place, Patrick, where I can only tell you I have a childlike excitement for life. And I feel that there are limitless possibilities that are ahead of me. And where I am coming from chapters in my life, I have had limited beliefs and I have entrapped myself in the past just with the need to feel accepted over time. But that was then, not now. I am so fully free. There are two analogies that I liken onto myself, and they're such extreme analogies. And I've said it before. I feel like an eagle that's soaring with the delicacy of a butterfly.
Mm.
And I am where I ought to be. And God has been so good to me.
Marsha-Ann, this season on the show, we're talking to people who have found their voice or who are in search of finding their voice. And whatever category you are in or feel you're in, I wonder what you want to say or would like to say with your platform that you have.
I would want to say to anyone, nobody has your voice. No one has your story. No one has lived your life or will ever live your life. Whatever excites you, whatever brings you joy, whatever brings you peace, even if it seems odd to the rest of the world, do you for you. And that's the strongest definition of self-love, which is what you deserve to enjoy every day of life.
Marsha-Ann, thank you so much for this time today. It's so been worth the 2-year wait.
I tell you, Patrick, I have such love, respect, admiration, and adoration for you, who you are, what you do, what you stand for. And I'm so happy that you found your voice and that you're using this medium for others to activate their own as well. It's time for us to overcome our limits and own our greatness. It's in our DNA.
It's in our DNA. Marsha-Ann, thank you so much. I appreciate your time. I appreciate your voice. I appreciate your wisdom and your friendship over these past 8, 9, 10 years that we've been friends, because it's meant the world to me. And I learn from you every time we talk.
Yes, and the same here on my side. That's because our values are aligned.
They are.
And purpose are so driven that we don't have time for the fluff.
The fluff.
Yeah, we're just authentic people on a mission to live a life of impact and leave a legacy.
Thank you so much, Marsha-Ann.
Thank you. Thank you, Patrick. And to everyone, do you be you, own your voice.
Yes. To those of you who are watching or listening, we all have a voice, as Marsha-Ann said. Use yours wisely. Bye, everyone. Thank you, Marsha-Ann.